Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for Access City Council. I'm your host, City of Las Vegas Communications Director David Riggleman. Coming up on this show, the city teams up with the Las Vegas Raiders to donate shoes to kids in need, and we show you how the city is leading the way in sustainability efforts. Here to talk about these topics and more is the councilman who represents Ward 1. You know who it is, Mr. Brian Knudsen. Welcome back.
Thank you so much.
How
Glad
are
to be
you?
here. I'm fantastic.
It's October already. We're moving into November, and
The weather's great. We're outside again. It's a lovely time to be in Las Vegas.
Exactly right. Exactly right. You know Ward 1 very well. It's kind of the heart of it all out there. For those of you not exactly sure where Ward 1 is located, well, don't worry. We're going to show you right here on the map. As I said, it's kind of in the heart of it all. It's where Las Vegas actually started, where the springs that bubbled up out of the ground brought water here and brought everybody to come to Las Vegas because of that water initially. That is in Ward 1. If you live in this area or work in this area, then of course you're in the city limits of the city of Las Vegas. And if you're a resident there, you're represented on the city council by Brian Knudsen. A lot to talk about today. A lot going on in Ward 1. This time of year, the fall and the spring tend to be the busiest times because we're out of the summer heat. We're not to the holidays quite yet, and so that's when there's a lot going on, a lot of activity.
Busy.
Exactly. So I think one of the things I know you're very proud of are the city's sustainability efforts. We've really tried to be a leader in that. And when you were on staff here back at the city years ago, I know this was something near and dear to you then as well.
Yes. I think the city's done an amazing job. We're clearly a leader. I got to slow down because I took my 2 cups of coffee this morning, so I'm going to slow down. We're clearly a leader in Nevada, but I think nationally we're recognized for a variety of different things within our sustainability efforts, how we conserve water. This building here itself, you can see the solar panels as you're walking by, driving by. And so I'm really proud. It all started in the office of the city manager. Tom Parago works in the city manager's office and kind of took a lead, and then there's a whole group of people that are really focused in on making sure that all of our efforts are healthy and environmentally sound.
Yeah, exactly. And you notice City Hall there, as Councilman mentioned, we got the solar trees out front, then on the roof you can see those are solar panels as well. So a lot of the building's energy is generated by the sun, which is really great. And same with our municipal court building. It's brand new, very sustainable, and we're talking about building a civic plaza across the street from City Hall. And again, the stipulation there would be that that building would also be a leader in sustainability. So,
and if you go to any of our community centers, you're going to see solar panels, you're going to see plug-in stations for cars. So it's not just the campus here, it's every city facility has environmental components that are sound for our environment.
It's funny how those things work hand in hand, because the more you see that, the more now you see electric vehicles on the road as well.
That's right.
Because it's more convenient for people. Whereas when they first came on the market, there was a little bit of stress, well, where can I charge this? And now it's not a big deal.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff. Councilman, I know also too, you love when the community comes together for good causes, especially those that are going to benefit the folks in Ward 1. And you posted this on Facebook. It was great. You said, young people are the future of our city of Las Vegas. We should do everything we can to support them and their futures. That's why I joined the Las Vegas Raiders and the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Southern Nevada in a shoe donation to 50 students and their mentors in Ward 1. It's pretty cool.
That was a super fun event. It was at Springs Preserve. United Healthcare came out. You can see their mascot in one of the pictures there. It's a mascot dog. I'm not exactly sure what that is.
But everybody loves dogs.
Yeah, so the thing that guides me, that my principles in life is really focusing in on children, making sure that they feel loved, that they feel cared for, and that they feel that they can do anything in the world. And so Big Brothers Big Sisters is a great community program. It pairs children up with adult mentors, and those mentors, their entire job is to make sure that that child feels loved, protected, and that they can do anything in this world, whether they want to be a photographer or work at Channel 2, or if they want to be a city councilman or a woman or a doctor or whatever they want to do. That's the value of mentoring. So if you're an adult, find a young person to mentor. And children are amazing. If you say, I love you, and you can do anything, they will do that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what's better than a new pair of shoes, too?
It helps if you have new shoes.
Exactly. So that's great. Congratulations to everybody involved in that. And you can tell by the smiles on those faces that
cute kids.
Obviously, it really went a long way, not only just to protect their feet, but also to open up some doors potentially in their future as well, and that's the idea. Well, Councilman, you're spreading the love too. You took care of the youngsters, and then you also took care of the seniors as well. October 14th, you dropped off some books, and I love this because look at this, it's a big crowd of folks gathering around to get some new books.
You know, we talked about this during COVID, as the seniors were so isolated for more than a year. And so that was a common request, is our libraries. We've gone through all of the books. So that's just become a regular thing for us, is we work with the library, the Clark County Las Vegas Library District Association Foundation, a lot of acronyms. And we collect books from them, as well as people who volunteer books for us, and we go and bring them to the senior centers. And it's also a time just to sit and have a cup of coffee and let them talk to me about how good of a job I'm doing, or bad of a job. It kind of ranges depending on the person.
Punches. Yeah,
my job, I feel, is to listen, take in all of the information, and make decisions. And so that particular book drop-off was great, because they were talking to me about some of the issues they have with traffic. And I tell people often, I don't represent the bad drivers out there. There's a lot of bad drivers, but we're going to work with our traffic engineering department to do everything we can to make sure the area is safe. And dropping off books is a great way to connect with people.
We talked about that on this show, that the seniors had been so isolated, as you mentioned, that they had read everything that there was to read, and so you were helping them with some fresh material, which is really valuable.
It was fun.
So, yeah, it's good for you all the way around. Keeps your brain active, and then obviously too keeps you safe if you can't go out and interact with others during the pandemic. So, and then. Speaking of families, I love this too. You posted this on Facebook. You said, join Team Knudsen and the LVMPD Spring Valley Area Command now at Spring Valley Area Command's Family Night. Now, what was this exactly, Councilman? I'm not familiar.
So Captain Nick Farisi is the captain over Spring Valley Area Command, and he asked for a partnership to make sure that his employees felt recognized, felt appreciated. So he has about 200 to 250 officers and support staff that work out of Spring Valley Area Command. And I worked with Commissioners Jones and Commissioners Naft, our Area 15, Palace Station, and we helped provide food and some raffle prizes for an employee give back, essentially.
Oh, nice,
and so
nice.
I brought my kids jumped in the bouncy house along with all the other officers' kids, and we did raffle prizes and had good food, and it was just a way to say to those officers who are working day in and day out to protect us, thank you you for what you do. And it was a really, really fun event. And Captain Nick Farisi and Spring Valley Area Command did a great job of really letting those officers know that they're appreciated.
Yeah, I know that goes a long way. During the pandemic, needless to say, first responders like the police didn't really get to take a day off. They just worked through it all. So for the community to stop and say, hey, thanks for what you're doing, and to get to celebrate with their families, I'm sure that was a big deal for them.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah. All of us had fun.
Well, good deal. That was back on September 24th. that happened. And then a few days before that, this is a big deal, the Enchanted Village neighborhood cleanup and coffee at the curb. I'm always amazed at the number of volunteers that you get in Ward 1 that come out for all kinds of things like this. And tell everybody what took place. This was a neighborhood cleanup, right? Everybody just rolled up their sleeves and worked to get rid of the old and spice up what they could.
So this is great. This is a partnership with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They have a lot of missionaries that are based here in Las Vegas, and they're in need of service hours. And so on a regular basis, we reach out and say, we're going to do a cleanup. Can you send some young people over, younger than me? And then it worked out really well because we worked out with our operations and maintenance team. They brought some tractors, some dumpsters, some trucks, and we flyered the neighborhood and said, if you have bulk trash, it's time to bring it out. And we're going to have some young people to help you bring it out of your house. This is really an older established neighborhood. It's right off of Desert Inn and Penwood and Arville in that area. And you know, if you have knocked on doors, I've knocked on a lot of doors in Ward 1, there's some senior citizens that have just accumulated a bunch of stuff for years and years and years and don't have any way to kind of clean it out their house. And so I see this as a really great community service, is helping those folks get some stuff out of their house. It's better going to the dump than on the freeway. It's better than on, we don't want it on DI, we don't want it on Arville. We want to make sure it goes to the dump where it's supposed to be. And so these missionaries in Ward 1 kind of helped clean out the neighborhood. Jerry Walker and the operations and maintenance team did a great job of helping those seniors, bringing dump trucks down the middle of their street. And it was a great event. Every neighborhood's a little bit different, and I think that one, we combined it with repaving their streets and fixing up some of the curbs that were falling apart. So great all around.
It really breathes energy into a neighborhood when everybody's working to clean it up. You get that sense that everyone's in this together. You mentioned something really important, Councilman. Sometimes people have accumulated things that they can't get out to the curb. It's too big. They can't get it out there themselves. Or sometimes there are things that the trash company or public services will not take.
Yep.
So these cleanups are a great way to get that stuff out, and the city will help you get rid of it. And that's what we've been doing. So.
And we've been doing our very best in Ward 1 to make sure that everybody in the neighborhood knows we're here. So for anybody who doesn't know what the city is or does and doesn't know who I am, they should know what their resources are that are available to them. So we put our numbers on there and say, if you need something, give us a call. We'll do our best to help you.
Yeah, exactly. And case in point, you did it again. You posted this on Facebook. You said, today, join Team Knudsen for a bulk trash drop-off event in the Charleston Preservation neighborhood area. We'll have large dumpsters for residents to drop off bulk materials. And that's what we're talking about right there, folks. This is, you need to get rid of some old couch or whatever that you're having trouble, you'd have trouble getting out to the curb by yourself. This is what we're here for. So.
And in that picture is DeMario from the Office of Community Services. So he and their team kind of arranged for those dumpsters to be there. And I sat there. It was really nice because there was a younger guy that came and said, my grandparents, they've lived here for 50 years, and their house is starting to not look so good. And so he was there kind of helping them clean out their house. So the dumpsters were there at the right time, the right place.
Perfect.
So it's a great way to help some of our residents take back ownership of their house.
You do a number of these throughout the year, right?
I'm doing my best to do more. I think it's really healthy for Ward 1. I think Ward 1 is some of the oldest homes in our community, and there's people that have bought there 50, 60 years ago, and it's just, we need to refresh it a little bit.
Yep. Councilman, tell everybody if they're interested, they're hearing this and they're thinking, that sounds great, how do I sign up?
Call me. Call me. You can email me. You can, however you want to get a hold of me. My phone number is 702-493-1547. You can email me, but if your neighborhood could benefit from that we're definitely looking for more neighborhoods to try different ways of neighborhood cleanups. And there's a variety of different ways we've tried. We've learned some lessons in the first few. I think we've got it down now. So yeah, if you need your neighborhood cleaned up, let me know.
Yeah, and for the end of this program, we'll have Councilman's contact information, email, phone number, how to reach him even on social media. So we're accessible.
That's it.
You can find us. So, well, Councilman, we need to take a short break, but when we come back, find out how pandemic federal relief funds granted to the city could benefit you. That's next, so please stay with us.
They say that when you're facing extreme danger, your life flashes before you. If you think that's sad, consider facing it before you even have enough life to flash before your eyes. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Deaths and injuries can be prevented by using the right car seat. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to know what is appropriate for each age and size.
Hey dude, I know the wait for a ride tonight is ridiculous. In a cab, it would be super expensive.
It would totally suck to have to come back to get your car.
But man, you know what else would suck? You getting you killed, driving home wasted.
If you won't listen to anyone else, at least listen to you. Save yourself. Always drive sober. Paid for by the Nevada Departments of Public Safety and Transportation.
Dude.
Welcome back, everyone. The city has been granted $130 million in federal relief funds through the American Rescue Plan. With us today to talk about ways the funding can help those in our community is State Senator Chris Brooks. Senator, thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate it. And Councilman, I know this is a big deal because the city has been granted money, but the state has also been granted money. The challenge is, how do you get the word out to the public of what they're eligible for, right?
And the county has money as well, so there's all different kinds of funding sources that are coming into the state of Nevada. And I think it's incumbent upon us as elected officials at the city, county, state, and all the other jurisdictions that received money to think about how we can really transform Nevada into the Nevada we deserve. There's lots of gaps in the systems that we have at the local, county, and state level. And I think this funding source provides opportunity to think about the future of Nevada. And I know the senators very much engaged and will be thoroughly responsible, really, as part of the legislature for the allocation of state funding, as the city council with the allocation of city funding. So I think it's a conversation it's timely because everybody watching should be aware of what the potential is for this funding and how we're going to use it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Senator, that's a great point that the councilman makes. The state, the county, the cities have been allocated funding. How do you coordinate all that so that the money's going to where people really need it the most and we're not duplicating efforts?
Thank you for that question. It is really difficult because with all of the funding, and it's for instance, about $6.7 billion came into the state, to the state portion, as well as the councilman mentioned, hundreds of millions of dollars, actually billions of dollars, went to counties, cities, Clark County School District, Clark County, City of Las Vegas, City of Henderson, North Las Vegas. They all have monies, and there is need throughout all those communities, and making sure that we coordinate and communicate is really the most important issue, so that there's not a duplication of efforts. And we saw a little bit of that early on with rental assistance as an example.
Right.
You had all these different programs happening, all important programs and much needed programs, but once we all started getting on the same page, because it was, we were in the midst of a horrible economic situation, so everyone was just trying their hardest to get their money out as quick as possible to Nevadans who needed it the most. But we've had time to kind of work together and communicate, and we've, I have a very open line of communication with my councilman, Knudsen, but also with the Clark County commissioners and the Assembly and Senate members who live in these communities. And so we have a process at the legislature and at the Interim Finance Committee, of which I'm the chair, where we are looking at all of these different needs and all of the different guidance. There's quite a bit of there's almost 100, I believe, different streams of revenue that are coming into the state as part of this recovery package that we have to look at each individual guidance associated with it, and it changes quite often. So it's a full-time job for a part-time legislature.
Yeah, it is. And Councilman and Senator, I think the important key in all of this is that for people to be eligible, or for organizations to be eligible, there has to be some connection back to the pandemic. Some effect that the pandemic caused is really why the money is being provided, right?
So absolutely, yes, and I'm sure the senator can weigh in on that. And the senator is an amazing Ward 1 resident. I'd like to say that. Happy to have him in Ward 1. So everything right now is going to tie back to the pandemic.
Right.
There's breaks in the systems with education, with healthcare, with our social service systems. The pandemic highlighted a lot of those issues. When we talk about rental assistance, there's so many people that were out of work for so long.
Right.
And what we see right now is this significant, almost a crisis standpoint as far as housing goes. And I talk about housing on almost every program that we do, David. And so some of this funding, I think, provides opportunity to think about what the future of Nevada will look like. But it does require some connection to the pandemic, and I think you can make those connections. The process to the city isn't substantially different than what the state is going to have to go through. There's just the legislature, the executive branch, the legislative branch, and I'm sure the senator can, weigh in on what the process will look like. Here at the city, I think we're getting close to making recommendations around how that 130 will be allocated. Maybe in the next couple of weeks or so, we'll probably start making some announcements.
That's exactly right.
At the state, they're probably a little bit further behind, but they also have to work through a part-time legislature, and that it is a full-time job. So we should give kudos to all those legislators who are investing time and energy into a full-time process.
Right. And we should mention too that $130 million granted to the city, we don't get it all at one time. It's broken up over 3 years.
Yeah.
Senator, talk a little bit about that. I guess for people who are saying, hey, this sounds great, my business suffered, or I can't pay my bills. What should people do at this point if they want to get connected with some of the resources that are now available to them?
Well, there's the city, the county, and then the state. And each one of those three governments has different responsibilities and different roles in how that aid can come to that business or that resident. And it is very difficult sometimes to get to the answers that you need. But you can contact the Nevada legislature through your individual elected representative. You can submit questions or comments, mainly ideas, through NevadaRecovers.com. And you can talk to, I know my councilman's very receptive and very open and communicative, and so is my county commissioner. And so reaching out through your local elected is the first step, and then they can direct you through the fabulous constituent services agencies that are in the city, county, and at the state on how to access some of those programs. I think it's just really important to kind of calibrate expectations, though, when we talk about these billions of dollars, and it is billions, that have come into the state of Nevada. The vast majority of those dollars have already been spent. And they've been, in this listening tour that we had where we talked to Nevadans, and I'm sure the city heard the same thing, childcare, for instance, is a huge issue for folks getting back on their feet and getting back into the workforce, and for our economy to start running smoothly. And so over $250 million, over $250 million of all those monies that come into the state is dedicated strictly to bolstering our child care system. And that's just at the state of Nevada. Now that will be working with local partners like the city and the county and NGOs to make sure we provide those services. But that's a great example. But a lot of that money has come into the state through rental assistance, which most of it's already gone out, or a lot of it's already gone out. It's come in through enhancements to unemployment. It's gone out through different programs like the child care. It's gone to the school districts. It's gone to the cities and the counties. So most of that money has already been allocated through programs that already exist and programs that were created over the last year. And so what we're really talking about is taking what's left and making some long-term systematic investments in our government and in our communities.
Oh, I see. And Senator, Councilman, for either one of you, where do you see the state's responsibilities kind of in this, where they should focus, the county and then the city? How would you like to see the three coordinate?
Senator?
Well, I think that a lot of those roles and responsibilities are set forth in statute and in the Constitution. And so, for instance, the governor's office and the governor's finance office puts forth a budget that they submit to the state or work programs that they submit to the interim finance committee. And then the legislature takes a look at those and determines what expenditures make sense, and then passes it out, and that's defined, well defined in Constitution. A good place to look at this as overlap is education, public education. Public education is funded in part through local and state, mainly through the state, and there are the Clark County School District, the state of Nevada, the city of Las Vegas, Clark County are all trying to help our kids who had learning loss during this pandemic, especially last year when they were out of the classroom. And that is where there's a lot of gray areas, and we're all trying to communicate with each other to make sure that we're using the dollars the best way we possibly can and not duplicating efforts. Yeah. But it comes down to communication.
Yeah, and I know you have very good communication with your counterparts on the county commission and at the state, obviously.
One of the interesting parts about being alive right now, it's an opportunity. The NGOs, the non-governmental organizations that the senator mentioned, those are the groups that are really pushing forward ideas or pushing forward requests for funding. So the opportunity to grow sheltering services for women and children, for example, is one of those big needs. And there's some responsibility at the city, county, and state level. So right now, as we're coming up with recommendations at the city level, I know Jorge Cervantes, our city manager, is reaching out to the county to say, here's the requests we've gotten. What requests have you gotten, so that we can mix and match as to where those funding sources are best coming from, either the city or the county. And that'll be incumbent upon the city and the county to work with the legislature to say, okay, we got requests here, the state has requests here. maybe we give some, the county gives some, the state gives some, and we can start to bolster out that future Nevada. And that's where I see a lot of opportunity. So as challenging as COVID has been, let's look at the bright side, and there's funding available for us to reimagine Las Vegas and
exactly,
Nevada.
And to help us get through this to where we can get kind of back to some sense of normalcy again. Senator, we're about out of time, but I want to give you the final word here. Is there anything else that you'd like to add that's germane to this discussion about the rescue funds that are available and how we move forward?
Well, I think that while this is a horrible thing that's happened to the state of Nevada, to the world, and how we're feeling the pain here in the state of Nevada through our economy and through our budget, we are incredibly fortunate that we have a governor who was the chair of the county commission. We have a chair of the county commission who was the speaker of the state assembly. And we have members of the city council who were legislators, and members of the Clark County Commission who were legislators. So there's a lot of cross-pollination within all three of those forms of government that allow us to have a very open dialogue and to understand each other's needs and responsibilities. And if this had to happen, it really came at a time where our communication between the city, the county, and the state, and the governor's office is the best it's ever been. And so it's all about communication, and we continue to talk and continue to work with our constituents and to find the best solutions forward.
Yeah. All right. Well, Senator Brooks, great to have you on the program. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. And Councilman, I know that before the end of the program, we're going to have your contact information. So if people have questions, they really need some help in a variety of ways, whether it's, as the Senator mentioned, child care or rental assistance, or just trying to make ends meet now as a result of the pandemic, you can reach out to the councilman's office or to the senator as well. So
I'm always available, David, and I appreciate the senator. It's a part-time legislature, and no one could have anticipated a pandemic coming on. So, like I said, kudos to every single legislator that's investing their time and energy into making Nevada better. And for the Senator Brooks in particular, a Ward 1 resident, great Ward 1 resident, I'm grateful for his time and energy here today.
All right. Well, I'm glad you guys are working together through all this, that's for sure. So again, Senator, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And folks, we always want to say, hey, we always want to hear from you. So if there's something you'd like to share with Councilman Knudsen, you can find him on Facebook and Twitter. You can also contact the councilman at 702-229-6405. We still do telephones around here. Or you can send him an email. His address is bknudsen@lasvegasnevada.gov. And here, one of his great staff will get back to you. And again, if you have any questions about relief funds that are being provided through the state, the county, or the city, coming from the federal government, Councilman's office is a great place to get started on trying to navigate all of that. So great to have you here. We'll have you back in 6 weeks with another update from Ward 1, and it'll be busy like this last time.
That's the job. I'm all in.
All right. Thanks, Councilman.
Thank you, David.
And folks, thank you for joining us. Don't miss our next show beginning on November 4th with Ward 3 City Councilwoman Olivia Diaz. You can catch all of our KCLV shows on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire, and watch for our QR code during the closing credits of this show to subscribe to our newsletter. Also, don't forget you can watch us live on the internet at kclv.tv. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next time around.